being ugly or being unattractive as a man makes literally every single aspect of your life more difficult. It's harder to make friends, it's harder to attract women, it's harder to get a job, and I think that's what most attractive people don't understand. Most people get that obviously it's going to be harder to attract the opposite sex if you're not good looking, but it's not just difficulty with dating that's the problem. It's everything. I mean, just think about friendship with other guys. Obviously, a lot of unattractive guys do have friends, but it's not as easy as it is for good looking guys. It's not as easy to make friends, and it's not as easy to maintain friendships. You can look at any friend group, male or female, and you can see that most friend groups mostly consist of similarly attractive people. Think back to high school. Was the most attractive guy in your school friends with the ugliest guy in your school? Was the hottest girl in your school friends with the ugliest girl? No, of course not. The most attractive guys and girls in your school were probably, for the most part, friends with other attractive people. And here's a quick little exercise you can do right now. Just close your eyes and try to think of different friend groups you've known throughout your life. It's probably easiest to think about high school or college since, for most people, that's the time in life when you had the most social connections. So just think of all the different friend groups you can think of, and for any particular group, think about how attractive each person is. If you really want to get technical with this, you can even assign a rating for each person from 1 to 10. Write it down if you have to. Now think, in any given friend group, does the distribution of how attractive people are seem random? Or is it mostly clustered around some mean value? Obviously, there will be outliers. I'm not saying an ugly guy could never possibly be in a mostly attractive friend group. I'm sure that happens, but it is rare. If you actually did this exercise I described, let me know in the comments if you got results that disagree with what I'm saying. But from all my life experience, it seems to me that most people tend to be friends with people that are a similar level of attractiveness. And when there is a big looks gap between friends, it's usually because those people share a special interest or a hobby. The classic example would be the Chad quarterback that's good friends with the morbidly obese lineman. It makes sense if you think about it. People naturally organize themselves into groups based on similarities. And as much as we like to think of ourselves as human beings, as being above all the base instincts of the animal kingdom, we're not. So usually it's not mental similarities that people group together around. It's the superficial things, the things we can see. And forget about attractiveness for a second. If you went to a school with a lot of diversity, then you probably noticed that friend groups also tend to form around shared ethnicity. Or even if there wasn't a lot of diversity at your school, it's still easy to see. I think there was less than 10 black people in my entire high school, but they were all friends with each other because people naturally group together based on similarities. And it's the most superficially visible similarities that people are most likely to notice. And I get that people are complex, like just being physically similar in terms of attractiveness or ethnicity obviously is not the only basis for friendship, and it's probably not the best basis for friendship. But a lot of times, probably most of the time, especially in our younger years, which is when the deepest, most important bonds are formed, those superficial similarities are the things that bring people together. Because until you spend enough time with someone to really get to know them, those surface level appearances are all you have to go off of. Okay, so people tend to be friends with similarly attractive people. So you might be thinking, well, that's still fine. An unattractive guy should still be able to make friends because he can be friends with other unattractive guys. And there's plenty of unattractive guys to go around. But the thing that makes it extra difficult with male friendships between any number of unattractive men is that unattractive men are living with an extreme scarcity of romantic options. And just to be clear, when I say unattractive, what I'm talking about is any man that is not positively attractive. So that does include average looking men, but the more unattractive a man is, the worse it is. But unattractive men live a life of extreme romantic scarcity. They are, at best, invisible to women. The dating apps don't work, cold approaches don't work. So think about the quality of friendship that two men can have together when both of them are hopelessly desperate for any crumb of female attention. That scarcity creates a situation where the crabs in a bucket mentality is inevitable. So, what often happens in unattractive male friend groups is that there's a lot of backstabbing each other. There's a lot of resentment anytime if one of them does have some success. They're just very prone to holding each other back, trying to bring each other down. Let a group of three unattractive male friends get around some average looking chicks, and all of a sudden you got three jesters all trying to clown on each other, all hoping to be top jester for a broad that's probably just going to be leaving him on red while she gets dug out by some random Chad from Bumble. And it's experiences like that where these guys throw each other under the bus, all trying to desperately climb out of their sub-5 pit of loneliness and despair. Those experiences breed resentment against one another. It might not end the friendship immediately, but it sure as hell weakens it. A friendship between unattractive men is very oftentimes just built on a very fragile foundation. And everybody knows that it's the good-looking guys that have access to all the women, so guys in an ugly dude, low-status friend group are also prone to trying to move up, so to speak, and work their way into a cool guy friend group. So all around, it's just a bad position to be in as an unattractive guy when it comes to maintaining friendships. And also when it comes to forming long-lasting bonds with other men. I'm not saying it can't be done, but just like everything else in life, being unattractive puts you at a significant disadvantage. There was a group of three guys I went to high school with, and these guys were all average at best in terms of looks. They were all unattractive in different ways, too, so I don't know, it was kind of interesting. One of them was really tall. He was like 6'3" or something, but he was already balding by the time he was in the 9th grade. I don't know if he had some kind of hormonal issue or what, but dude looked like he was 30 when he was 15. Then one of the guys was short and just overall not very good looking, and he also had a kind of squeaky voice. And I remember he was actually really athletic. I'm pretty sure he had the fastest shuttle run time in our PE class, which had maybe 40 to 50 guys in it. If you don't know what shuttle run is, it was just part of the presidential fitness challenge. What I'm saying is he could run really fast, and he had a high level of agility. And he played football, but I don't think he got much playing time. And he never got in with the cool football player clique. I'm guessing mostly just due to his appearance. Then the third guy in this friend group, his flaw was that he was ginger, like the type where he's just covered head to toe in freckles. People used to call him Chester Cheetah, and he played football too. That'll be important later. And there were some other guys these three were friends with, but the three of them were kind of a core group of best friends. They were all pretty cool guys, in my opinion. If you don't know, I had crippling social anxiety back in high school, and I still do, but it was probably worse back then. But these guys would talk to me in class sometimes, and they actually made an effort to include me. They even invited me to sit with them at lunch one time, which I did appreciate. I appreciated it a lot, actually. But because of my anxiety, I know this doesn't make sense if you've never experienced this level of social anxiety, but I was too afraid to sit in a different seat at lunch, so I declined their invite, even though really I did want to join them. But that's neither here nor there. Well, I guess it is relevant to the topic in the sense that it's your early life experiences, including that of growing up as an ugly kid, that causes social anxiety to that degree, or it's at least partially responsible. But, anyways, back to what I was talking about. So, these three guys were best friends the whole time I knew them, from like 8th grade all the way up until sometime in senior year when the whole group fell apart. The friction all started when Chester Cheetah started gaining some ground with the popular football player clique. I think he was a starter by senior year, although I'm not 100% on that, but he was a very funny guy. He could do funny impressions, and he was just kind of a class clown. So I think that's what helped him get in with the popular crowd. And it was like, as soon as he started hanging out with the cool football players, he just didn't care about his old friends anymore. Because they told me about it. They were telling me how Chester wouldn't respond to their text a lot of the time, and he never helped them get into any parties or anything now that he was in with the cool crowd. He just moved to a higher status friend group, and he left his old friends behind. So that's how Chester Cheetah left the group. So then after that, the tall bald guy and the short squeaky voice cell, they were still best friends with each other, but that didn't last long because Squeaky actually managed to get a girlfriend. He started dating this girl a couple years younger. But see, when that happened, obviously the tall bald guy also started spending a lot of time with this girl since she was dating his best friend. So I guess he developed feelings for her, which that's just bound to happen. That's the thing about these unattractive male friendships. These guys are so desperate for female affection, they will backstab their lifelong best friend if they think it'll help them get some. Obviously, not every single guy in the world in that position would do that. You know, there are people that just intrinsically have a good set of morals, but most people don't. Especially when you are in that desperate position, being an unattractive man, this kind of thing is likely to happen. So I don't know exactly what happened, but I think the tall, bald guy just confessed his feelings to the girl, or maybe he told someone else about it and then they told Squeaky. I don't know. But Squeaky found out that tall Baldy had a hankering for his shawty, and they actually got in a fist fight. So it was a guy that's about 6'3", probably 200 pounds, versus Squeaky, who was maybe 5'5", 130 pounds. But like I said, Squeaky was surprisingly athletic. And I didn't see the fight, but from what I heard, Squeaky won. So just like that, in a very short period of time, 3 guys that were best friends for years all just stopped being friends. But I'm only telling this story to illustrate just how wrought with problems male friendships can be whenever all the guys involved are all living with a scarcity of options. And that's just friendship. That is one aspect of why being ugly as a man is such a miserable existence. I don't think I really need to say anything about how hopeless the dating situation is for unattractive men. If you're already watching my channel, then you probably already know all about that. But dating and friendship, close personal relationships or a lack thereof, that's not the only reason why being an unattractive man in this society is such a miserable existence. It's also how you get treated by strangers, by people that don't even know you. And as much as our society has been heading in the direction of everything involving less and less social interaction, most things are still very bureaucratic. So anytime you need to get something done, like say you're trying to return something at a store, or you're dealing with the DMV trying to get a new social security card or something if you lost your original copy, or dealing with the medical system, trying to get a diagnosis when you're having health issues, or trying to work out getting things covered by insurance, finding out which doctors are in your network, Or even at your job, trying to deal with the bureaucracy there, or say getting some work done on your car. I know these things can be a pain no matter who you are. Even the most beautiful woman in the world would probably have some kind of issue trying to get new documents at the DMV. But it's all so much more difficult when you're an unattractive man, especially if you're actually ugly as a man. All these things are so much more difficult. I don't know why this is so hard to understand for a lot of people. Most people will readily admit that the halo effect is a thing, or pretty privilege, as women like to call it. Most people do understand that attractive people get treated better in most situations. But as soon as you try to talk about how unattractive people, especially ugly men, get treated worse in most situations, then all of a sudden, somehow that's a very controversial statement. Women just don't believe it, or I don't know if they actually don't believe it or if they just deny it. But women usually seem to think that all women are oppressed and all men have it easy, so they deny it. Then other men will just tell you to man up, like, oh, you get ignored everywhere you go, and everyone you talk to acts like you're bothering them, even when you have a good reason to be there, and it's literally their job to help you. Just man up, loser. Be a man and deal with it. Like, God forbid a guy vents about how brutally unfair this shit is. But dealing with any of these bureaucratic bullshit whatevers, it's like you're always getting the runaround. The people you got to go through to get things done, it's like every interaction starts off on the wrong foot by default just because nobody wants to have to look at my ugly face. Female customer service workers are always extra rude just in case you might accidentally get the wrong idea and think about trying to hit on them. Like, here's an example. This was years ago, but I made a doctor's appointment just to get a basic checkup and also to get established at this new doctor because this was after I moved to a different state. So I was talking to the receptionist, trying to make sure my insurance would cover it and they were in my network and everything. And the whole time, this very fat woman was so mean to me. I remember her asking me what my group number was. I think it's called group number, but basically it's like a number that refers to the specific insurance plan you're on or something like that. I don't know exactly, but it's on the card. It's on your insurance card. But I didn't know what that was. So I asked her what that is, and she was just like, your group number? So I had to ask again, like, what is a group number? And she was like, the group number for your insurance, sir. We need to know the group number if you want to know if we're in network. And this was after she had already photocopied my insurance card, by the way. So I don't know why she was even asking me about it when she could have just looked at it. But maybe she had already put the copy away in a drawer or something. But still, she was being so rude about it, and she was acting like I'm retarded for not knowing what a group number is. I remember I told her I didn't know what it was, and I asked her if it would say on my card, and she was like, yeah, I think it would say on the card. So I pulled out my insurance card, and I was looking at it, trying to find the group number, and I guess I was taking too long because the lady was like, give it here. So I gave her my card, which she already had a copy of, by the way, because I already gave her the card earlier. But then she typed the group number from my card and she was looking for the info on her computer. But the whole time she kept like sighing and just making little noises like she was just extremely annoyed. And then she handed my card back without even looking at me and she was like, you're in network. So I said, okay, thank you. And she just goes like, huh. She didn't say thank you back. She didn't say you're welcome. She just said, huh. You know, like she just grunted basically. And I know that anybody could face a rude interaction like that. It's not necessarily because I'm an unattractive man that she was rude to me, but this kind of thing is routine for me. It happens probably more often than not whenever I have to deal with any kind of bureaucracy. And I've also noticed, like, back when I worked as an engineer, I would have to deal with people over the phone pretty often. And I noticed sometimes someone that was perfectly nice to me over the phone, when I'd meet them in person, then they'd be rude to me. So in cases like that, I can't just chalk it up to me being socially awkward because I'm just as awkward over the phone as I am in person, probably more awkward over the phone, actually. So the only difference was now they could see me. So it's like, not only do you face more social friction as an unattractive man just because you're probably socially awkward from a lifetime of being treated poorly, but you also just get treated poorly by default just because people either don't want to be around you, they just want you to go away, or maybe because of the inverse halo effect, they just assume you have bad intentions. Whatever the reason may be, you just get treated badly as an unattractive man. It's a feedback loop that just keeps growing and getting worse and worse. It's like when you bring a microphone or some recording device next to the speaker that's playing the recording in real time, and it just keeps echoing off itself and getting louder and louder until it's just like this horrible screeching tone. It's that kind of feedback loop. My spirit-broken behavior is the speaker, and my brain is the microphone. I'm unattractive, and it's hard to keep going when everything just keeps getting worse. I get treated like garbage, like I'm a fucking creep just trying to ask a grocery store worker where they keep the damn toothbrushes, and that damages my confidence even more than it already is. So then I'm even more fucked up and emotionally broken the next time I need to talk to somebody for any reason. And my soul is just fucking screeching at this point. And a lot of guys have it just as bad or even worse than I do, and nobody else cares. This is what life is like for an unattractive man. Everything is difficult. There's extra hurdles you have to jump over just to get anything done. Nobody cares about you. Nobody wants to get to know you. Nobody gives you a fair chance. People just want you to go away. And it's really hard to keep going. It really is. But I will. I guess that's the indomitable human spirit. For some reason, I just keep chugging along, even though nothing ever works out and nothing's ever easy. Probably because I assume things would just get worse at a faster rate if I just totally gave up. So, just whatever. If anything I said here resonates with you or you found the video entertaining, please check out some of my other videos. There's also some secret videos you can watch for free on my Patreon, so check that out. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.